power plant has the choice of paying up, engaging in costly litigation, or going without the coal and closing down. None of these options is attractive, but if the power plant simply buys the coal mine, all the problems disappear. This is what Rockefeller and the compulsive micromanager did with many aspects of the oil refining business. He reduced his costs and avoided holdup problems through vertical integration. Rockefeller also devised means of eliminating the incredible waste that plagued the oil industry. His chemists figured out how to produce oil byproducts as lubricating oil, gasoline, paraffin wax, Vaseline, paint, varnish, and about 300 other substances. In each instance, he profited by eliminating waste. Just as James J. Hill spent the extra money to build the highest quality railroad lines possible, Rockefeller did not skimp in building his refineries. So confident was he of the safety of his operations that he did not even purchase insurance. Rockefeller also made the oil refining industry much more efficient. There had been vast overinvestment in the oil industry in its first decades, as everyone had wanted to get rich quick in the business. Northwestern Pennsylvania, where the first oil well had been drilled, was littered with oil derricks and refineries of all sizes, many of which were operated by men who really should be in another line of work. Rockefeller purchased many of these poorly managed operations and put their assets to far better use. There was never any threat of that these horizontal mergers, the combination of two firms that are in the same business, would create a monopoly, for Standard Oil had literally hundreds of other competitors, including such oil giants as Sun Oil, not to mention its many large competitors in international markets. One of Rockefeller's harshest critics was journalist Ida Tarbell, whose brother was the treasurer of Pure Oil Company, which could not compete with Standard Oil's low prices. She published a series of hypercritical articles in McClure's magazine in 1902 and 1903, which were turned into a book entitled The History of the Standard Oil Company, a classic of anti-business propaganda. Tarbell's writings are emotional, often illogical, and lacking in any serious attempt at economic analysis. But even she was compelled to praise what she called the marvelous economy of the entire Standard Oil operation. Because of Standard Oil's superior efficiency and lower prices, the company's share of the refined petroleum market rose from 4% in 1870 to 25% in 1874 and to about 85% in 1880. As Standard Oil garnered more and more business, it became more efficient through economies of scale, the tendency of per-unit cost to decline as the volume of output increases. This is typical of industries in which there are large initial fixed costs, such as the expense involved in building an oil refinery. Once the refinery is built, the costs of maintaining the refinery are more or less fixed. So there are more and more customers are added. So as more and more customers are added, the cost per customer declines. As a result, the company cut its cost of refining a gallon of oil from 3 cents in 1869 to less than half a cent by 1885. Significantly, Rockefeller passed these savings along to the customer, as the price of refined oil plummeted more than 30 cents per gallon in 1869 to 10 cents in 1874 and 8 cents in 1885. Because he could refine kerosene far more cheaply than anyone else could, which reflected in his low prices, the railroads offered Rockefeller special low prices or volume discounts. This is common ordinary business practice, offering volume discounts to one's largest customers in order to keep them. But Rockefeller's less efficient competitors complained bitterly. Nothing was stopping them from cutting their costs and prices and winning similar railroad rebates, other than their own inabilities or laziness, but they apparently decided that it was easier to complain about Rockefeller's unfair advantage instead. Cornelius Vanderbilt publicly offered railroad rebates to any oil refiner who could give him the same volume of business that Rockefeller did, but since no one was as efficient as Rockefeller, no one could take him up on his offer. All of Rockefeller's savings benefited the consumer, as his low price made kerosene readily available to Americans. Indeed, in the 1870s, kerosene replaced whale oil as a primary source of fuel for light in America. It might seem trivial today, but this revolutionized the American way of life. As Burton Folsom writes, working and reading became after-dark activities new to most Americans in the 1870s. In addition, by stimulating the demand for kerosene and other products, Rockefeller also created thousands upon thousands of new jobs in the oil and oil-related industries. Rockefeller was extremely generous with his employees, usually paying them significantly more than what the competition did. Consequently, he was rarely slowed down by strikes or labor disputes. He also believed in rewarding his most innovative managers with bonuses and paid time off if they came up with good ideas for productivity improvements, a simple lesson that any modern corporation seemed to have never learned. Of course, in every industry, the less efficient competitors can be expected to snipe at their superior rivals, and in many instances, sniping turns into an organized political crusade to get the government to enact laws or regulations that harm the superior competitor. Economists call this process rent-seeking. In the language of economics, rent means a financial return on an investment or activity in excess of what the activity would normally bring in on a competitive market. This sort of political crusade by less successful rivals is precisely what crippled the great Rockefeller organization. The governmental vehicle that was chosen to cripple Standard Oil was antitrust regulation. Standard Oil's competitors succeeded in getting the federal government to bring an antitrust or anti-monopoly suit against the company in 1906 after they had persuaded a number of states to stifle similar suits in the previous 2 or 3 years. The ostensible purpose of antitrust regulation is to protect consumers, so on the face of it, it seems that the government's case against Standard Oil is ludicrous. Because of Standard Oil's tremendous efficiency, the price of refined petroleum had been plummeting for several decades, generating great benefits for consumers and forcing all other competitors to find ways to cut their costs in order to survive. Product quality had improved, innovation was encouraged by the fierce competition, production had expanded dramatically, and there were hundreds of competitors. None of these facts constitutes in any way a sign of monopoly. As happens in so many federal antitrust lawsuits, a number of novel theories were invented in order to rationalize the lawsuits. One of them was the so-called predatory pricing. According to this theory, a predatory firm that possesses a war chest of profits will cut its prices so as to drive out all competitors from the market. Then, when it faces no competition, it will charge monopolistic prices. It is assumed that at that point no other competition will emerge, despite the large profits being made in the industry. Journalist Ida Tarbell did as much as anyone to popularize this theory in her book on Standard Oil, in a chapter entitled Cutting to Kill. To economists, however, predatory pricing is theoretical nonsense and has no empirical validity either. It has never been demonstrated that a monopoly has ever been created in this way. Certainly, predatory pricing was not a tactic used by Standard Oil, which was never a monopoly anyway. In a now classic article on the topic in the prestigious Journal of Law and Economics, John S. McGee studied the Standard Oil antitrust case and concluded not only that the company did not practice predatory pricing, but also that it would have been irrational or foolish to have attempted such a scheme. And whatever else may have been said about John D. Rockefeller, he was no one's fool. McGee was quite right about the irrationality of predatory pricing. As an investment strategy, predatory pricing is all cost and risk and no potential reward. The would-be predator stands to lose the most from the pricing below the average cost, since presumably it already does the most business. If the company is the market leader with the highest sales and is losing money on each sale, then that company will be the biggest loser in the industry. There is also great uncertainty about how long such a tactic could take. 10 years, 20 years? No business would intentionally lose money on every sale for years on end with the pie-in-the-sky hope of someday becoming the monopoly. Besides, even if that were to occur, nothing would stop new competitors from all over the world from entering the industry and driving the price back down, thereby eliminating any benefits of the predatory pricing strategy. Finally, there is a logical contradiction in the theory. The theory assumes a war chest of profits that is used to subsidize the money-losing strategy of predatory pricing. But where did this war chest come from?